Saturday Night Thunder makes its second trip this season back to Florida, and the Grand National Series returns to the former home of the SNT Championship race. This is the virtual Homestead-Miami Speedway, and the 1.5 mile circuit will play host to 100 laps tonight under the lights here in Miami. As it stands, 18 drivers are registered for tonight's session, and qualifying is on the move with less than 3 minutes and 30 seconds remaining. And all in all, our second trip to Florida expected to be as exciting as our first. Homestead, one of the best intermediates on the entire schedule, gets a chance to play host to fantastic racing and a battle for the championship, which is still developing. Welcome y'all back to FTN for the second broadcast of the night. If you weren't here with us before, I'm David Kreutz, your commentator and producer for tonight's event, and it's great to get things going once more. Jordan Kuntz currently at the top of the board as the qualifying on the move, expecting a lot of drivers to put down times. As it stands, it's Jordan Kuntz in first and Jackson Van Pelt in second, as it looks like Jackson's qualifying run has concluded. Henry Kaloff is right now going to be scored in third. Marshall Harris goes into sixth, and for the first time since season 4 of the Truck Series, Luke Peters has returned and finds himself fifth on the board, going for his hot lap this time by. Each driver given 2 laps in qualifying to get the best possible time, and it looks like Peters definitely quicker on this second run. He's less than 0.3 of a second away from the pole position time. It looks like he's got enough speed to perhaps crack the front row, and as he comes across the start-finish line this time through, Peters jumps from 5th up to the top by 16 thousandths of a second. Luke Peters takes provisional pole, and just like that, it's the number 20 at the top of the board, with Matthew Weeks now on his way. Peters in a return race is set to, of course, one of the drivers to watch. We remember how good he was in season 4, however, not a full-time campaign then, and ever since, we haven't seen all too much of him. But now there's an opportunity for the 20 team to return to the spotlight, and already a great first impression, provisional pole as it stands. It's going to be Matthew Weeks coming across the start-finish line this time through, and he's going to finish his first lap up, and that was his warm-up lap. So he has 2 that we put on the timing charts, and those will be the laps that count. So for Matthew Weeks right now, the end goal is to build the speed up on this first lap and go from there. You'll see how dominant the top side is already. I think that's going to be a maintained theme all throughout tonight's race. Most drivers can prefer to stay up top, especially as the race goes on. Expect multiple grooves of the track to develop as the race progresses. And right now, Matthew Weeks using that high side through 1 and 2 as he gets going for his flyer. He's going to move up to 9th on that lap, so already inside the top 10. However, now time to make those big gains. Already looks to be about 1/10 of a second quicker coming down the back straightaway, and he's in the fight right now to maybe lock in a 5th, if not just a little better. Weeks is going to drop down and in, take it to the middle of the circuit, touching the bottom seam, but not really going anywhere further as he puts the power back down once again. Matthew Weeks is going to be flying by the start-finish line, and it looks like backed it down instead. He's still going to get 4th at the stripe. Weeks makes it up to the top 5 in qualifying. Matthew Weeks with the final qualifying time of the day, and just like that, we know your starting grid for tonight's event. The Homestead 150 set to be an exciting showcase of stock car skill with these Xfinity machines, and a track that requires so much precision from each and every one of its grooves. It's only fitting that each and every driver tonight gets to tackle the circuit for 150 miles. Your starting lineup for the Homestead 150 goes as follows. Luke Peters finds himself at the top of the board with a 32.117 pole position in his first appearance since season 4 of the Truck Series. It's going to be Jordan Kuntz second on the running order with a 32.133, and Alec Daffin finds himself in third inside of row number 2 with a 32.153. Your top 3 drivers separated by just under 51 thousandths of a second. It's going to be Matthew Weeks qualified in 4th, and Vinny Tigner, who's second in points coming into tonight, 5th on the timing charts. Jackson Van Pelt, not too far behind, scored in 6th. It's going to be Henry Kaloff then in 7th spot, and Dylan Wheeler in 8th with a 32.333, as Kenneth Garrell finds himself in the 9th position with a 32.36. Kyle Jackson will round out the top 10 with a 32.576, and it'll be Jackson just ahead of Shane Wheeldon as the 98 goes up to 11th. 32.87 for the man in the 98 machine. Marshall Harris will be scored in 12th outside of row 6, and he has himself there with a 33.309 as Michael Deitch takes the final time in qualifying, and it's a 35.905 for Deitch inside of row 7. The rest of the field automatically determined by iRacing. Carter Casey will not be racing tonight. Jacob Kaplan, though, going to be starting inside of row 8 in 15th, and you'll see Chris Tripp there, position number 16. James Bowden is going to be scored in 17th, and it'll be Tyler Seaver then in 18th. And to round out the 19 driver field, Tyrone Yo is the final driver to register, and as such, he'll be starting inside of row 10 tonight in Homestead-Miami. The field is set to get going as it's just minutes away from our starting grid. Warm-up is on the way, and second practice gives these drivers one final opportunity to prepare. You'll see right now it's going to be Jackson Van Pelt going side by side with Michael Deitch, and a bit of a wiggle up there for Jackson as Deitch goes through. The championship battle is something we definitely want to focus on. One of the big reasons being is Jackson Van Pelt. He finds himself third in the standings, about 33 points back as it stands. However, there's a big opportunity in tonight if, of course, someone else were to win, not being Jordan Coots. Coots already has a huge amount of control this series in terms of the season standings. He's got 3 victories. He's at the top of the board already. And it's well known to these drivers that if there's anyone to fight with the championship for, it's going to be all about Jordan Coots. It's he, Vinny Tigner, and Jackson Van Pelt, who we're seeing right now, the top 3 in the standings. And while Vinny Tigner just came through with his first victory last race at Michigan, Jackson Van Pelt is a driver still looking for that first opportunity in victory lane. And I think that as the racing season goes on, it's going to become more and more likely we see that first checkered flag out of the 07. Jackson, too good to have no victories. I'd say he's up in that category now. And he, Alec Daffin, a few of the other veterans alike, sure, they all feel that way about their driving, but the way that Van Pelt has held himself consistent so far, besides Watkins Glen, a little bit of a slip up at the road course, I think there's a serious opportunity for him to fight for, at the very least, second in the point standings, if not go for that overall lead, if all were to go well tonight. Now you see Alec Daffin, who had his best finish of the season at Michigan. He's still on the rebound train, and right now for Daffin, he's got a ways to go. He finds himself 11th in points now. However, he's still 99 points back, and as the season progresses, of course, he's made big gains. He started the season 23rd in points, but he still has drivers to pass, such as, how about Michael Deitch, James Thurston, who just got by, Kenneth Garrell, Mac Grab. He's still not ahead of most of the full-timers to this point, and while he's climbing up the ranks, the Colorado Technical University machine definitely looking for another podium finish if they can keep it consistent tonight. Vinny Tigner second in the point standings and coming off of his first career victory. The momentum is riding high with this number 12 Advanced Auto Parts team, and I think of any driver, you got to look out for Tigner to break out and keep on going. We saw it happen with Alec Daffin last season. If you get that first victory, it becomes so much easier to fight for the next, and so on and so forth. Tigner might be a driver, another example of that same mentality. With 15 seconds left to go on the timing charts, it looks like it's going to be Kenneth Garrell, the fastest driver in second practice. Luke Peters just made it across the line, but will not get an official time down. With that being said, it's the 57 at the top of the board as warm-up concludes, and now it's time to line up the starting grid and get ready for Miami. pace car set to join the field in just a moment's notice. Homestead-Miami Speedway is going to come alive to the sounds and, of course, the sights of stock cars. And now you can see him here. Jordan Kuntz going to be at the top of the board. On the outside line, however, as Luke Peters in his return race finds himself to the pole position. It's a very close margin between these two drivers, though. Only 17 one-thousandths of a second. Not what the pole position came down to. I think both of these drivers are going to give each other a very, very solid run each and every lap. It's going to be two of the most competitive drivers this league has seen. However, Kuntz has remained a member of this series and is now looking to defend his SNT championship from last season and maybe join the hat-trick club with 3 championships in a row. Luke Peters is not racing for that championship, but it would be a fantastic statement race if he were to win on his return night. It could be possible, and he set himself up nicely here as he's going to take that pole position, but there's still 100 laps ahead of us here. Nothing is a guarantee, especially in the early going. Alec Daffin going to be starting there in 3rd, and Matthew Weeks, who's proven himself to be much better at the intermediates and 2-mile circuits, right there in 4th as well. Don't count him out as he's set to fight with the best of them as soon as we roll off the starting grid. Weeks is now with us. It looks like we're only waiting on Tyrone Yo in 19th. Rest of your field is already on the track. Green flag set to wave for 100 laps of racing here in the Homestead-Miami Speedway. 150 miles, no forced cautions. This could go all the way on strategy. I think that would be very interesting to see. Expecting a one-stop strategy, perhaps a 50-50 split for most of these drivers here. Luke Peters, Jordan Kuntz, we've seen them battle before. It's going to come down to tire saving at Miami. The tire degradation is major. Expecting some drivers to fall 2 seconds from their fastest lap as the race progresses, and it looks like now every driver will be able to put it into gear for the first time. Taking it out of neutral, getting it through the gears, Jordan Kuntz gets going, and the rest of the field is due to follow. As the field passes by, Luke Peters is going to be at the top of the board, and he finds himself to the inside of Jordan Kuntz in that number 99. It's going to be a Toyota Supra at the front of the board. It's a Ford Mustang then in 2nd, and you see a Chevy Camaro lined up in 3rd. Every manufacturer represented, and the best of this field, as always, at the front. The championship battle set to keep on rolling tonight. Keep an eye out for Tigner and Van Pelt as they fight for 2nd in the championship standings. And of course, the debuting driver of Luke Peters, his first Grand National Series race. Of course, he's familiar with this field, but not familiar with this package. Can he master the Xfinity Series in one night? The Grand National campaign, of course, off to the best possible start if he were to win. But right now, it's all a mystery. Time to find out who has control in Miami as the iRacing official pace car drops down a pit road and the green flag waves in Homestead. Welcome back to the Grand National Series. Luke Peters has control. And the caution out immediately. Big wreck with Jackson Van Pelt, Tyler Seaver also. And just like that, trouble on the racing circuit. Yellow flag is out. Taking a look already at what caused it here, as it looks like back of the field troubles immediately on the start. Take a look once more. Looks like Jackson Van Pelt going to be going down to the inside. Maybe middle 3 there with Matthew Weeks, and he gets loose immediately. Hooks up to the track and takes the 37 of Dylan Wheeler. Makes contact with Tyler Seaver, and just like that, caution flies on the circuit. An immediate yellow flag to the first 2 turns, and we're back with a bang here as we take a look at the incident once again. This is from the back of the field, so it starts with Dylan Wheeler here, who did not at all see that number 07 go right into him, and nothing he could do, only for Tyler Seaver also to get involved, and James Bowden hardly avoids it, but gets away regardless. Kaplan gets by, Chris Tripp does as well, Michael Deitch, Shane Wheeldon, all making it through, but by no means was that an easy call to make, as it looks like they're going to get through barely. It's a narrow avoidance of our first wreck of the day, and the caution is out. Yellow flag flying here from the virtual Homestead-Miami Speedway. Luke Peters leads. It is Jordan Kuntz still in second. Third is going to be Alec Daffman. Fourth then is going to be Matthew Weeks. Henry Kaloff now rounds out the top 5. He gained a bit. He went from 7th to 5th in just a turn and a half, and now puts himself in the top 5 with the 213 Simware, number 63. So immediately, 4 drivers go down a pit road as a result. Chris Tripp chooses to voluntarily. It looks like he has front end damage as well, just a bit, but nothing fatal. Dylan Wheeler, I would say that he should be able to get back on the track. The back end is what came out from under him. I think Jackson Van Pelt's night is done just like that. As you can see, destroyed on the front end, and it's exactly the opposite of a race he was looking for. Destruction, and the front end is gone. The left front tire is completely off of this car, and as such, Van Pelt might fall further, and it might be Matthew Weeks and Henry Kaloff taking his spots in the championship standings. Seaver going to get some more damage repair, and Dylan Wheeler back on the way. Although he has no back bumper, he'll try to keep racing and hope to get as many points as possible. Peters is going to come across the stripe. It is now a total of 2 laps to green, as the field chooses largely not to go down a pit road. Only one man going to make it in. That is James Bowden in the number 52, and James will make it in quickly here, as it looks like he's the only driver to go in voluntarily without any damage. 4 laps in out of 100, early trouble is going to bestow themselves upon Jackson Van Pelt, Dylan Wheeler, Chris Tripp, Tyler Seaver, and now back under yellow for the first time. With some early troubles, one driver who was definitely able to make out of it with some gains, it was Marshall Harris there in the number 21. Haven't talked all too much about this 21 this season, however, early gains there, making it through the trouble, and as such, it's going to be Marshall now running in the Cabela's number 21, up inside of the top 10, in the single digits, as a matter of fact, making it into 9th early, so some quick gains, and those early moves up are what's going to matter as the race goes on. Track position is essential, and this is almost entirely a restart of the entire race. It's almost as if the race really never got going, since we only got through about a turn and a half. So for a driver like Marshall Harris or anyone else in that circumstance of gaining early, it's going to be a very good opportunity to perhaps keep building upon how he started, and Jackson Van Pelt is going to take himself off of the track. I think that's his night already, as he's 4 laps down, and yellow flag still in the air, but for Jackson Van Pelt, looks like the night has already hit its close. 5 laps in out of 100, and the Homestead 150 set to get going once again. It's going to be Luke Peters and Jordan Kuntz first and second. Looks like Peters is going to have control on that bottom side once again. He'll take it down low. Alec Daffin and Henry Kaloff will follow suit, while it's going to be Matthew Weeks and Vinny Tigner following Jordan Kuntz right on the top side. Once again, going to be 2x2 formation for the first restart of the day. Peters, the man you got to look out for in the Ream machine, leads, and it's Jordan Kuntz looking for what would be his 4th victory of the season on the top. Dylan Wheeler going to get back on the track as well. He's still on the lead lap, however, got extensive damage repairs to get through, and he just took another round of about 50 seconds, so he's catching up to the pack, but as you can see, no back end at all. The rear spoiler gone, and everything else with it has disappeared. He's going to get back to the field for this restart, and the green flag is set to fly. First restart of the night. Luke Peters leads him through, and we're back on the move in Miami. Luke Peters will lead at the line, and just a tenth and a half back, there's Jordan Kuntz running in second. Third place is going to be Alec Daffin, and Matthew Weeks is there in fourth. And just like that, single file largely throughout the field as we just got through our first fully green flag lap of the day. Early going doesn't seem to bring all too much trouble for the rest of these guys. As you can see now, Marshall Harris is going to be running on the middle seam. Most drivers are going to the absolute bottom right now, and that looks to be the preference for the field as they come across the line once again. We'll keep watching as those preferences are of course bound to change. I think we're going to see a lot of drivers going up to the high side as the race progresses here, looking to save their rubber and get some more speed, especially coming off of the corner. Right now though, just about everyone is looking low except for, I think right now that would be James Bowden or Jacob Kaplan. Kaplan in particular is taking it high through all four corners. He's a bit higher than Shane Wheeldon as it stands and looking to keep himself up on the top side. As you take a look on board with Kaplan right now, figuring himself out in that number 4. It looks like they're 1 and 2. He's taking it the highest of almost any driver right now, and that is the case. You'll see he's above the second seam, working it high compared to Shane Wheeldon. And while it doesn't seem to have any benefit early, the exit of the corner is much stronger, and as such, Kaplan's going to take it right down low and look for the position immediately. Now Kaplan maybe going to go for 2 with Michael Deitch right ahead. Michael's been able to hold on for now, running inside the top 10, and he raced earlier today in the IRA Team Series held by the Velocity Online Racing League. He now puts himself back in the cockpit once more and is racing twice today, and already finds himself running firmly in 10th, but that might change because Kaplan is coming in quickly and looking to take the spot. Up top goes Jacob Kaplan. He's looking, and he's got the speed to do so. At the stripe, we'll find out who's got it, but it looks like already Jacob Kaplan jumping out and taking another position. Up in front, though, your top 2 drivers are running away, and it's a battle with Jordan Kuntz not having the advantage. It looks like he's found his match tonight, and that's Luke Peters, who currently leads right now just ahead of that number 99. Now, the question of tire saving comes to the mind of both drivers, and I'm sure right now they're setting each other up for the second half. That's going to be the biggest deal. 11 laps in out of 100, expecting a pit cycle around lap 50. If we don't get any other yellow flags, that is, and in all honesty, that is somewhat unlikely. So for Jordan Kuntz, who's got a good run here, he might try to take it down low. He chooses to back off and will let Luke Peters lead into the first 2 turns. Now, that's the close nature of these 2 drivers. They're very, very even on pace, and they've given each other a good show so far, but nothing all too aggressive as Jordan now looks down to the bottom side. He's looking to take the lead once again, and he's going to slice right under the number 20. Now, your pole sitter back on the top of the board. And it's a very, very intricate process right now, the back and forth between these two. Kuntz gets the lead once again. Luke Peters, your pole sitter, is going to give it right back. And as it stands, doesn't look like anything else going on for now. Jordan's trying to develop and flesh out that higher side, but really nothing else for the time being, as Kuntz runs high and Luke Peters goes right down low. Alicia Kaplan in the chat rooting for Jacob tonight, and great to have you stop by. Hope you enjoyed tonight's race. Currently, Kaplan running in 10th and looking to take a few other spots as the race goes on, namely looking for Kyle Jackson, who's now in 9th. At the line, Kuntz takes the lead once again, but Luke Peters by no means making it easy, and these 2 drivers are going to be a fun show to watch as the night goes on. Look back to Matthew Weeks, Henry Kaloff, and Alec Daffin. Right now, Daffin's got the advantage running in 3rd, and of course, looking for a big points night if he can get one. It will continue his charge uphill in the championship standings in what has been the most competitive season we've seen on FTN. I don't think Alec Daffin is a shoo-in to be 2nd in the point standings as he was last year or the season prior. I think at this point he's got to go on a charge and keep going for podium after podium after podium. Now, he runs in 3rd once again, which is his best finish this season so far, and putting it together nicely in the early going, but he's definitely got to keep it up there because it's so early now, and Matthew Weeks is right behind. So is Henry Kaloff. Kaloff right now runs in the 5th position, and he could look down low if there's just a little more room, but he hasn't found the right place just yet. And you'll see him working the bottom seam, trying to get that momentum. At least for now, he just can't find it. Off the stripe once again, it's going to be the number 57 of Kenneth Gorell, who just passed by Chris Tripp. And Tripp going to go now a total of 13 laps down. So he had an extended pit road stay and already going to be far off of the leaders in the early going of this race. Peters is going to be the man who no longer leads. It's Jordan Kuntz up in front, and your pole sitter now runs in the second spot. Single file just about all throughout. Jacob Kaplan right now going to be running alone, but this second pack is getting closer and closer from top to bottom. There's Kenneth Gorell, who runs right behind Marshall Harris, and so far Harris going to be your biggest mover of the race from 12th up to 7th, so he's gone slowly but surely up to the higher portion of the pack. Starting in 12th in the middle of the field, he got that big advantage of gaining 3 spots in the initial wreck, and now finds himself in 7th, taking a 2-spot pass. Kyle Jackson and Kenneth Gorell working right behind him. Next step would be to get up to this pack, which is fighting effectively for 3rd. You can see Vinny Tigner now trying to get up on Henry Kaloff, while Henry is going to be following Matthew Weeks, and Alec Daffin holds his own there in 3rd. Daffin's about a 1-second distance behind Jordan Kuntz as it stands, likewise with Luke Peters, and this battle for 3rd is far out of the frame of your leading drivers as they battle each other for the position. The race lead is in the hands of 2 drivers so far, with of course Alec Daffin there waiting in the wings if there is to be any trouble. But Peters, last few laps, has not gotten it there. He's been close, but just not able to get the lead back as quickly as Jordan Kuntz did, taking it back and forth, tossing and turning. I think right now, that's where Jordan Kuntz's long run speed and experience in this league comes into play. Continuous tire saving, and we've seen him week after week so far, whereas Luke Peters, this is his season debut. It's going to be a bit trickier for the driver who's just coming in, but right now he's holding in very, very strong at the line. The gap is going to be less than 1/10 of a second, and it's going to be even closer as they go into the first 2 turns. Peters tries high, Jordan Kuntz, he'll go down low, and all of a sudden 2 drivers trying 2 very different things. And in the opening 5th of this race, strategy continuing to diverge more and more. Now it's going to be Vinny Tigner going down to the bottom side on Henry Kaloff. He works himself right down low, has enough room, tries not to skate up, and it's going to be Kaloff who reaps the benefit there as he gets the better run off the corner just to keep himself in line. At the stripe, it's going to be Henry Kaloff holding his own in 5th. Kenneth Gorell going to be fighting there with Marshall Harris. It looks like Harris defending 7th nicely here, but not much else he can do as Kyle Jackson now goes down to the bottom side, looks for a spot on Kenneth, but can't take it just yet with the lap machine of Chris Tripp giving quite a lot of pressure immediately behind. Now for Vinny Tigner, he's not done yet. He'll lunge down to the inside and take the pass this time through. And that moves Vinny up into the top 5 very quickly. And just like that, another spot going to be taken as the man on number 12 moves on yet again. He's now going to be looking for Matthew Weeks, and Weeks has held his own, only about 0.3 of a second away from Alec Daffin. Daffin right now going to be still in that 3rd spot, but he might be losing a little bit of time, although not consistently. That time by, Matthew Weeks was actually 4/100ths of a second slower than Alec Daffin. But instead of gaining any time, it ended up going in the opposite direction for Matthew Weeks. Not at all what he wants right now, but certainly got to figure something out if he's going to go for a pass. That time through, he was 15/1000ths of a second slower, so it looks like it's clear right now. Weeks is not able to gain, but he's practically level with the driver of that number 48. Watch on board Weeks and find out what's going on. You see Matthew Weeks still holding in. He's about less than 0.3 of a second away now. It's going to come out to 28 hundredths, and that gap might be closing once more. That time by, he was about 6/100ths of a second quicker, and that's enough to make it a realistic chance of making the pass. That's, of course, if Vinny Tigner can keep it close as well and bring more pressure. Vinny's now going to be running in just about the 5th position. He's got nobody else around. Looks like Henry Kaloff is firmly behind, so he's going to be in a much better position to go charge after another spot, not having to worry about anyone else right there with him. Marshall Harris now going to go up top. Looks like Kyle Jackson is making spots up quickly here. Is now going to look to take one away from Marshall as Harris runs up to the top side. He gets it right back. He's clear again, but Kyle Jackson opts to drive down low. He'll take it deeper and deeper again, trying to look for the pass, and he has Chris Tripp helping him. So if one driver goes low, the number 90 is set to go as well. And now at the stripe, Marshall Harris going to have to work high if he wants to keep that position, and he runs all the way up to the top of the track. He's going to hope that run down the back straightaway is enough momentum to keep him in it, and it looks like it should be as he swaps down to the bottom immediately, going low fast. It's a quick move as the battle for lead persists. Jordan Kuntz goes right up to the top side with Luke Peters lunging down low. And now it's going to be Luke trying to make something happen on the quarter panel. He could go low and dive in it if he wants to, but he'll back off once again and let Jordan Kuntz go right by. At the line, it's going to be Marshall Harris taking the spot back from Kyle Jackson. And it looks like he'll be clear with Jackson in the same spot that Marshall was just one lap ago. Quick swap, and now the lap machine of Dylan Wheeler getting in the way. It's going to help out for Marshall Harris, and he will stay in 7th as a result. Quick back and forth battle. It's going to go in the favor of Marshall Harris as your leader Jordan Kuntz once again breaks the cycle. Now Jordan Kuntz has that lead, and it looks like he's got enough control to take it back whenever necessary. The question now becomes for Luke Peters, what can he do to get the advantage as the race goes on? I think now it will come down to pit strategy. What can he do on pit road that's different from Jordan Kuntz that can give him the race lead? Does he go to pit road earlier, get service, and get back out with newer equipment faster? Does he wait a little longer and hope to push his stuff more so at the very end? Is it possible to just follow through and maybe get the lunge in early on the aftermath of the exit of pit road? It's also possible, but at the same time, you got to think realistically here if you are Luke Peters. 29 laps in, nearly a third of the way through already. And by no means is it easy to pass Jordan Kuntz. However, he's there once again. He has the speed. They're both relatively even on pace. No matter where they are on track, the question becomes what can be done to break away, and that breakthrough just hasn't been found yet. So for Luke Peters, that's the big difference. Can you find that opportunity to separate yourself? Looks like neither of which have found that placement on the track that gets them away. They're close, but nobody is clearly better. Kuntz has now led more laps, but I think Luke Peters now in the draft, taking it in and using less of the resources. That might be his choice for the time being on purpose, as opposed to letting Jordan Kuntz slip by. Further back, Matthew Weeks is going to be right on Alec Daffin. The gap now less than 0.2 of a second, and Vinny Tigner still coming as well. And with Matthew Weeks slowly but surely making his move in inch after inch, it's going to be a question of whether or not Alec Daffin can defend here as the gap is going to become even smaller. Matthew Weeks uses the high groove, gets the speed, gets that draft, and he can look low if he wants to. He has the placement, and he'll go for it. Matthew Weeks now going to drop down to the bottom side. Lap machine to the number 77 right up top. They'll go 3 wide with the lapper, and it looks like he will not get out of the way. Tyler Seaver right up there lets them through regardless, just not quick enough to keep up. And at the line, Matthew Weeks is now in 3rd, making up another spot quickly, and that will up him into the podium, promoting him to 3rd place for the first time all night long. Matthew Weeks is on the outskirts of the championship battle as it stands, currently puts himself about 40 points back, and he runs overall 4th in the championship standings. So he has an opportunity to gain on both Vinny Tigner and Jackson Van Pelt tonight, and you can see right now he's definitely going to claw for every position he can. Neck and neck with Daffin at the line once more. Still going to be no give and no take. They're side by side for now at least a lap and a half. No give though, and it looks like it's going to be all about trying to take that spot up top. Matthew Weeks gets the run. Still not clear until Daffman decides to go right up and merge. It looks like it's now going to be Matthew Weeks in the third position. That's for sure. Look further back and Kenneth Gurrell fights Kyle Jackson. And Kenneth's going to be right there on the bottom side. Jackson is going to be up top using two completely different lanes, but still just about the same on pace. Number 77 of Tyler Seaver going to go right down and in. He's going to go to pit road, and it looks like that could be his night. He's 26 laps down as it stands, so he has struggled early and maybe going to get submit more service to keep on riding through, but it's going to be tricky as he finds himself a lap machine in the early going. A third of the way down, it's going to be now Vinny Tigner on lap 34 chasing after Alec Daffin. And for Tigner, he's just about as close as it gets to making a pass. He's within that 0.2 of a second range, and if you get that draft on the top side here, it's much easier to make that pass. However, as you can see, Alec Daffin now beginning to block up top. He has an understanding of exactly what these drivers want to do. He's not going to let them get away with it. So he'll go up top and block the quickest lane, whereas Luke Peters now goes up high, and he's looking for the race lead. All over the quarter panel of Jordan Kuntz. At the stripe, it's going to be a drag race to the line. It looks like Kuntz will no longer have the edge as they go through 1 and 2. Kuntz will hold on to lead that lap by 0.009 of a second, but not going to be enough for Luke Peters, of course, to stop knocking on the door. He's right there and looking for it once again, and you'll see he's now got the speed down the backstretch and lunges past new race leader again. It's going to be Luke Peters back to the front. And for a driver we have not seen since the later months of 2022, returning with a bang, Luke Peters is back on top and all of a sudden has that advantage of about 0.4 of a second. The question is, has Jordan Kuntz given it his all? Is there anything left in this stint? Because he faded back immediately about as quick as he could. Now, of course, he doesn't want to, but it looks like some trouble's coming off the final corner. And as such, Kuntz now finds himself far back on your leading driver, the furthest he's been in the lead all night long. So now the question is, can Jordan Kuntz regroup, get back up there with Peters, and try to get the advantage into pit road? Or has Luke Peters found the opportunity he was desperately needing? And all of a sudden, it looks like it could be the advantage in a pit road, the absolutely required for success tonight. One man looks to be out of luck. Jacob Kaplan's in trouble, up to the top of the track. No caution, but the front end is blown. He has to pull that thing in or get it towed automatically. Kaplan's front wheels are locked up. The suspension is blown, and it looks like the front end giving its way as well. Here's an instant replay, and it looks like he hooked up to the top of the track. And I'm not quite sure if that's an equipment failure, such as his steering wheel, but it looks like he immediately sent himself up. We'll check if it was an overcorrection here as we take an instant replay one more time. Inside the cockpit of Jacob Kaplan, here's your FTN replay on the matter. It looks like Kaplan having some trouble, and you'll see turning it hard left. And he turned it right. It didn't look like an overcorrection. He was sawing at the wheel, and it looks like it just hooked up. So whether or not that was equipment or intentional, not quite sure. And it looks like something bit on that number 4, Kaplan's night, effectively over here. So just like that, troubles for Jacob Kaplan. Luke Peters going to lead the way, and I think that would have to be boiled down to either a very minute overcorrection or hardware failure. I don't think that would have been done intentionally, taking himself out of the race from the top 10. Luke Peters leads 40 laps in. It's Jordan Kuntz in second and Matthew Weeks in third. And from there, you got Alec Daffin, who runs fourth, and Vinny Tigner rounding out the top 5. Drivers are now more separate than ever before, and all of a sudden it's a huge advantage for Luke Peters. And in the night, of course, returning to the field, he looks to once again have the advantage, and all of a sudden Kuntz fading further and further into that distance. One of the closer battles right now looks to be Marshall Harris fading back to Kenneth Gurrell. Harris, who's still in 7th here, wiggled up just a bit, and you can see how much quicker Kenneth Gurrell was on the way down the back straightaway. Already going to put himself within 2/10, and last time by, they were separate by about 3, so Harris is really having trouble through the corners here. You can see it. He'll go up top, wiggle high once again, and Kenneth Gurrell will barrel down the front straightaway and nearly takes that spot away. Still not enough though there, and you can see it's a huge lunge from Marshall Harris. He's really pushing it deep into every corner, trying to compensate for the problems inside of that number 21. And while he's holding on to the spot right now, Gurrell knows, do not push the driver that's already pushing himself far too much each and every time around. So right now, Marshall Harris definitely giving himself a bit of trouble each and every lap around as the number 21 comes across the stripe again. Still 7th, but there's some underlying problems here which might have to be addressed as the race goes on. Looking further up, Matthew Weeks is now going to be chasing down Jordan Kuntz, and it looks like Kuntz is definitely giving way to a lot of other drivers who are around him here. You can see Jordan is now about a 10th or off of a second away. He's going to be 9/10 off in particular, but Matthew Weeks is coming up quick, and that gap might continue to expand as Luke Peters is starting to run away. You'll see right up top, Matthew Weeks is going to go for it. He'll go way up high, trying to get that different groove going, whereas Jordan Kuntz is going to try to make something happen what he's stuck to all throughout this stint. Now, we're less than 10 laps away from the big pit cycle tonight, so I would expect for Kuntz to try to hang on to the podium here, but he's got a lot of pressure here from Matthew Weeks. Weeks is going to pull it down low. He'll go down to the bottom side, and for the first time, perhaps all season long, really not looking to be the indomitable driver of the field. Jordan Kuntz once again going to be pulled back and in as he's going to be chased down by Alec Daffin as well, and your points leader maybe succumbing to a pitfall tonight as he looks like in the long term definitely not the quickest driver on this set of tire. And with Alec Daffin coming aboard, Dylan Wheeler drops down to the bottom side. Take a look at how Daffin is continuing to chase down Kuntz as this will be the fight for third. Alec Daffin gonna opt to go right up high. You see, Kuntz is gonna wiggle big time and drift right through the exit of the corner, and that's enough to set up the pass immediately. Alec Daffin gonna go right down low, and just like that, it's a spot taken from Kuntz. That would move him out of the podium quickly, and it looks like it does. Daffin up to third. Jordan Kuntz is gonna slide back in a fourth, and all of a sudden, Kuntz is gonna have much more pronounced troubles as you saw him wiggle all out of the exit of turn 2. It was a drift almost the entirety of the way out, and luckily no major damage, but still not going to be a good sight to see for any driver, let alone for Kuntz here, who was just about 15 laps ago your race leader. All of a sudden he's going to be preying on that course first pit cycle coming in very soon. Tyler Seaver went into pit road previously, but no other driver has opted to make their way in. The one-stop strategy is what we're set to see tonight, and with 100 laps on the table, we're nearly at the halfway marker already, coming in to lap 49. Next time by, the closest battle is still Marshall Harris and Kenneth Gurrell. The reason being they got passed once again. And all of a sudden, this is going to be the fight for 8th. Harris has 8th, Gurrell has 9th, and even though Kenneth looks to be a bit more stable each and every lap, he's just not been able to find that speed. Marshall Harris definitely pushing the limits of his equipment here, trying to keep the spots that he's gained. And so far, doing a solid job at just that. Jordan Kuntz, 4/10 of a second behind Alec Daffin, is continuing to lose that time, and it looks like no solid gains can be made for him right now. Not even any gains is a fluke here, so he's going to be one of those drivers getting ready for the next run. Kenneth Gurrell is still going to be within a quarter of a second here on Marshall Harris, and he looks down low, tries to lunge it in once again. But Harris now trying to stay calm and compose himself once again gets that better exit. And the exit is so critical now. In the earlier stages of this race, it was a little less so, but you can see the way you go into the corner with so many lines available makes all the difference. Harris goes right up top and he's going to take it way high, and he might have enough speed to carry it down the front stretch. It looks like he does, but now you got to wonder who's going to hold on the longest as we've made it to our halfway point. 50 laps in out of 100, and next time by they'll be given the signal 50 laps to go. Luke Peters, your leader now by 6/10. He's slowly but surely losing time to Matthew Weeks, and it's going to be halfway down, halfway to go here in Homestead-Miami. Luke Peters advantageous for the time being. It's then going to be Matthew Weeks, and Alec Daffin's now in third. Vinny Tigner is actually gaining on Jordan Kuntz here, but no signal of going down to pit road just yet. We've made it past halfway, though, so if you want to, you can. I think, though, they're going to try to stretch it as long as possible. The reason being, the more time you spend on track right now, the less time you wear out in your new set of tire, and it looks like Vinny Tigner are going to drop in as immediately one driver going to elect to go at the halfway point. Vinny Tigner, he will make his way in, and as such, green flag pit stops are on the move. Now, Vinny Tigner down a pit road, the first of many drivers to make a green flag pit stop tonight. Luke Peters now going to be side by side for the race lead here with Matthew Weeks. Weeks has been able to gain big time in the last few laps, and Peters wiggles once again. It looks like Weeks now going to be the quickest driver by far. Jordan Kuntz just went down and in, and he sees the sign maybe coming early now as these two drivers beat each other up for the top spot. Jordan Kuntz is going to make his way in, whereas it's Matthew Weeks and Luke Peters battling each other for the lead. And taking a look on board with Weeks here, he's as close as he's gotten. Now, time to find out whether or not they stay out one more lap. For Peters, it looks like he's going in. For Matthew Weeks, not so much. He'll take the race lead, and all of a sudden, Peters opts to drop in as he sees the sign himself and makes his way down to pit road. 48 laps to go. Another driver makes their way in, and it's going to be Matthew Weeks, Alec Daffin, and now James Bowden, your top three as it stands. Kuntz is going to be able to cycle out up in front of all those who were previously on pit road. Now the question is, does he come out as your pit road race leader when we look at other drivers such as Luke Peters here? Peters still on pit road as it stands, and he is set to leave within the next 10 seconds here. Michael Deitch gets on the way. You see him in the background of your frame. Jordan Kuntz is coming up, and down the front straightaway he will go. It looks like it's going to be easy for Jordan Kuntz to get cycled right next to Luke Peters. Peters comes down the apron, but it's a long apron here through the first two turns, and it's not at all as quick as the racing circuit. So as Kuntz comes through at full pace with warm tires, it's going to be closer than before, but Luke Peters still cycles out ahead. Now it's going to be Jordan Kuntz within 7/10 of a second, and they're racing once more for that race lead. Kuntz gets on the way. Luke Peters just ahead. Matthew Weeks comes down and in, and as he makes the move through, it's going to be about a 35-ish pit second. Of course, pit stop with 35 seconds on the clock for these guys. Matthew Weeks makes it in. He makes the move just before Alec Daffin and James Bowden. Daffin opts to stay on the track even still. He's just one lap ahead of Luke Peters. Peters going to be right there, whereas Alec Daffin remains just ahead, and it looks like Daffin nearly going to make contact there with Peters and lets Jordan Kuntz by as well. Now Alec makes it down to pit road, and another driver making their way in. Strategic stops are still coming, and just like that, Daffin is through. This is set to give James Bowden the race lead, and that it does. Number 52 goes to the top of the chart for the first time tonight. It's James Bowden, your race leader. Just like that, James Bowden going to take it to the top of the board. Alec Daffin is going to be on pit road. Henry Kaloff just exited, and Michael Deitch looks to be coming in as well. He'll make his way in, as it's going to be Luke Peters and company on the way out. So Daffin is going to cycle outside of the leading battle, and that's going to be clear to see as he gets back on the way. Alec gets on the move. Jordan Kuntz is now going to be within 0.3 of a second, and he's clawing back hard. He's got to make those moves to push right now, because if he can can take up that time and try to get with Luke Peters. He has to do so in the early going. It looks like for Jordan Kuntz, tire fall off is more prevalent in the second half of the stints, no matter what. So we'll see whether or not that's going to hold true in this stint, the final of the night, or if Jordan Kuntz can perhaps break through the barrier. But right now, the advantage is in the playing field of Luke Peters, who leads the way tentatively with 43 laps to go. We're only waiting now on James Bowden, who just went in, and Marshall Harris to come down to pit road and officially cycle the field out. And just like that, Marshall Harris makes the way through, and he's going to come down to pit road, giving the lead right back to Luke Peters as Peters comes across the line. So now we got ourselves an overall cycled field and your first pit stop cycle of the day without any troubles. It's been a one caution race so far, minimal trouble for all drivers, and we get back going with Luke Peters advantageous at the front. Jordan Kuntz is going to be now within a quarter of a second of the distance, and he's getting slightly closer almost each and every lap. He's hoping to make some more gains though and keep it consistent here as the final stretch is now just ahead. It's going to be 41 laps to go, this time by with Luke Peters on top, Jordan Kuntz there in second, and Vinny Tigner in position number 3. There's the final driver to get back on the way. It's going to be Marshall Harris running in 11th. He'll be one lap down, and he'll be right behind Shane Wheeldon, who's the first driver off of the lead lap. Now it's going to be Kyle Jackson, the final man with the leaders in 9th. Henry Kaloff is 8th. James Bowden is 7th. And it's going to be Kenneth Gorell, position number 6. Top 5 goes as follows with Alec Daff in 5th, Matthew Weeks in 4th, Vinny Tigner in 3rd, and Jordan Kuntz runner-up as it's Luke Peters leading the way. And now with Peters right ahead, the gap is going to be still 25 100ths of a second. Minimal distances between your best 2 drivers on the circuit. Luke Peters has himself the lead, whereas Jordan Kuntz is still the man chasing just behind. Both of these drivers have led laps today, and very few others have had a chance to lay claim at the lead. But if anyone's going to get it done, it's most likely going to fall between the 20 and the number 99. So far, though, Luke Peters once again stretching out that gap just slightly as Kuntz tries to go up top. His idea, at least for now, is to form up that high groove, get things going once again up there, and maybe save a bit more tire for the later portion of the stint and get right back at Peters when the going gets much tougher. Now with 39 laps to go, he's going to have to plan ahead because right now Peters doesn't have to do much defensive work as the gap is just large enough not to worry about the driver in your rear view mirror. 3.5 tenths. It's going to once again stretch slightly, but it's advantage Luke Peters the way it's going, and the distance continuing to increase as they come up on some lap machines this time by, and another one of which is right ahead. A few lappers all throughout the track from this point onward, and I think right now we're looking at the number 77 and no longer. Instead, you see there's Chris Tripp, there's Dylan Wheeler, there's Michael Deitch, and there's Marshall Harris. And these lap machines are all scattered around the track. So is Shane Wheeldon. We got a lot of drivers off the lead lap now, and they're going to play a part of the picture of 37 laps to go. Now that time by, Luke Peters ran a 32.943, and he is not the quickest driver on the track. However, he is still quicker that time by a tenth over Jordan Kuntz. And that tenth of a second is a big deal because that's the difference between gaining into the 1500th range or falling out of the 3500 range. Now, that time through was Kuntz who was quicker, but it's been a game of course, pushing and pulling back and forth. And that fight, it's going to be prevalent till the very end of this race. I think that's going to showcase more as we get into the dying 15 laps. Now Vinny Tigner is going to drop back to Matthew Weeks. Weeks is quick, and that time by was the fastest of all drivers in the field because he's got the newest set of tire. He's only been on his stint for about 9 laps now, and he ran that time by a 32.8 versus Luke Peters and his 33.158. So if there's anyone quick enough to go for that race lead that isn't in the top two, we might see a new competitor rising up the ranks. 66 laps in out of 100 tonight, and now we're coming down to the final third of racing. It's going to be Luke Peters leading, and Jordan Kuntz still second, but another driver battle is brewing. Shane Wheeldon and Marshall Harris. This is the battle to see who will be the first driver one lap down. If there's a caution, this will be a more important battle, but for the time being, one driver in trouble. Dylan Wheeler back up to the wall. No caution flies, single car incident, and he'll stay straight. But there's a lot of damage on that 37, and he's already 4 laps down. Not the best of nights so far for Dylan. Now he's going to keep on going regardless of those troubles, but it looks like he'll drop down to the apron here, and we'll see whether or not he chooses to stay on that racing circuit. He drops down and in, set to come down pit road, so it looks like he's going to safely make his way through. At the same time, Chris Tripp looks to have just disconnected from the session, and with 33 laps to go this time by, Luke Peters still just about equidistant from Jordan Kuntz. As soon as we say he gains time, he loses, and vice versa. So far, it's been a game of no telling for these two drivers, and they've kept each other honest. At least for the time being, though, I think it's still a slight advantage in the way of Luke Peters, especially when it comes down to that tire fall off. We saw the way that Jordan Kuntz completely fell off in the final 10 laps, and if that were to happen again, it's absolutely going to destroy his night. And no, he does not want that, but however, the way things are looking, it's more than likely he's got to prepare himself for the 90 to 100 lap stretch, which could be the most treacherous and the most important all at once. 69 laps in and a nice lead held so far for Luke Peters. He finds himself up in front even still, and right now there's no close battle on the racing circuit save for the drivers who are up in front fighting for the race lead. As it stands, everyone's simmering down once again, getting accustomed to where they're running, and it looks like most tire sets are more or less equalizing. I think right now, with the exception of Matthew Weeks, because Matthew is clearly the quickest driver. That time by, he ran a lap 0.3 of a second faster than Jordan Kuntz, and a 1/10 faster than your race leader in Luke Peters. So now there's a chance to go for it. It would be all in the hands of Matthew Weeks to keep on driving and perhaps put himself into the record books with a checkered flag early in the season. But as it stands, though, he's still got a ways to go. Half a second, Jordan Kuntz is back on Luke Peters, and he fell as far back as 0.6 of a second just a lap and a half ago. So he's using that high groove to save more equipment, waiting for the rubber to come in the final stretch. Definitely more evident now that Jordan Kuntz is leaning towards that patience as opposed to early aggression. You'll see there, down to the bottom side, it's Marshall Harris looking for something. And while with 30 laps to go, he hasn't quite found the back bumper of Kuntz just yet. It looks like he'll get there regardless, and the lap machine's got speed just enough to maybe take it past Jordan and Luke Peters within the next few laps. So another driver looking for their own intentions. Of course, Marshall Harris right now looking to get back on the lead lap with drivers such as Kyle Jackson and Henry Kaloff. They might keep battling, as a matter of fact, because Kyle Jackson is right in front of Luke Peters, and now Marshall Harris is right behind, and he's clearly the quicker of the two. So lap machines battling right beside your leaders. That's a new story coming up here with 28 laps remaining. And in the final stretch, we see new storylines coming into play as we go further and further. Harris is now going to be putting the pressure down on Luke Peters, and all of a sudden, we might see these two get closer and closer, although I don't really expect much of a direct battle. Peters is keeping that number 21 right at bay. However, now it's going to be Harris going down low, looking for a lunge in, doesn't quite take it, and he will stay right there once more. Look up, and you'll see Kyle Jackson. He's about 32 seconds behind your leader, and just about a second and a half away from being lapped. When we consider everything, he's very close, but it looks like Marshall Harris going to protect him and lunge right under. Going to slow down Luke Peters, but nothing all too major. It's going to be a very respectful pass there from the lap machine, and it's going to help Luke Peters in keeping that lead. Didn't lose a lot of time fighting with the lapper, and so Marshall Harris gets back on the way. One man who's gaining big now looks to be Alec Daffin, and the reason is he's got a 5-lap younger set than that of Vinny Tigner. That time by, Vinny Tigner lost 0.4 of a second, and it looks like this time through he lost 0.3 of a second to Alec Daffin. So he's nearly lost 3/4 of a second in 2 laps. And with that pace, it looks like Daffin should be able to catch up to him by the end of lap 80, which is now only about 5 laps away. Daffin looking quick enough to get right back there to Vinny Tigner, and we'll see whether or not he does so, because there's also a battle heating up in front. Matthew Weeks is now less than a second away from Luke Peters, and he's 3.5 back from Jordan Kuntz. This is the closest he's been to the race lead all night long, and it's been 75+ laps of waiting, but all of a sudden, it looks like Matthew Weeks set to put himself in a very good spot to take second. It's going to be a wiggle from Jordan Kuntz, but he keeps himself right in it. Now, Matthew Weeks within 0.9 of a second of Luke Peters, still gaining, and he's got Jordan Kuntz right there in front of him. He's got to dispose of this number 99 quick if there's any opportunity to take the lead. And this is going to be the big test. What can he do here with Kuntz, who we know is going to defend, but we don't know how long he can hold on given the circumstances. And now Kuntz is going to drive up high. He wiggles there and is now going to be side by side down the back straightaway. He didn't even know where he was going, but it looked like he settled up top. And all of a sudden, Matthew Weeks now finds himself in second with 24 laps to go. The heated portion of this race is coming up momentarily. And all of a sudden, new driver in second. And it could be Weeks who's looking to go to the top of the board to chase the checkered flag. 23 laps remain this time by here in the Homestead-Miami Speedway. And if you're enjoying the action tonight, be sure to check out our official camera providers at TrackCams22.com, providing high-quality iRacing broadcast cameras for over 100 cars and tracks. Check out TrackCams22.com for more information, or visit Facebook.com/TrackCams. We're set to crank it up with the best cameras on the iRacing platform. Let's go with 22 to go. It's going to be courtesy of TrackCams22.com, cranking it up here in Miami. With only now 17 laps remaining, the gap between your top two drivers is now less than half a second. Matthew Weeks, with younger tires on the track, he's now been able to put himself up in the runner-up spot, and he's looking quicker and quicker each and every time around. Now putting himself up there, it's a total of 84 laps that we are going to have complete as they come across the stripe yet again. Matthew Weeks has been the man on the mission so far tonight, making it back up to the runner-up spot. He started in fourth, so by no means he had to climb through everyone in the field, but now he's back looking for the top spot. Weeks is now right there, looking right behind Luke Peters, and it looks like so far hasn't been able to get close enough to get a run, but if he gets that room, I think there's no doubt what he's going to do with it. He's going to try to, at the very least, lunge in and make that pass. He's got the speed. Now he's just looking for the execution to finish it off. And on the other side, you have to look at Luke Peters right now. Take a look off the back bumper one more time. The pressure, it is mounting. And the more laps that we put down, the more it's going to become the determining factor of his defense. Can he hold on? Can he keep putting it right behind the number 11 each and every time, blocking the right lanes, giving the right distractions, so to speak, because Matthew Weeks, while close, hasn't found the room just yet. And that's been the difference. The defense is everything right now. 14 laps to go this time by as we come right across pit road in the first turn. It's going to be now Matthew Weeks going down low, while it's going to be the number 20 Luke Peters going even lower there. Weeks ends up going up top instead and decides to drive it high to take it right down the back straightaway. Here we go once more with less than 0.2 of a second of distance. Weeks now has 0.2 of a second to make up in 14 laps. So at the same time, he has to keep on pushing. He can also relax a bit more than beforehand. He was about 5-6 seconds out when this stint started, and he's been able to slowly but surely reel his way in, and now is in a great position to go for it once again and absolutely push himself to the checkered flag. Now coming across the stripe, 13 laps to go. The gap is expected to be just under 0.2. Slowly, the gap is shrinking more so each and every time, but it looks like through 3 and 4, Luke Peters actually is slightly better, at least coming off the exit. It should be about a relatively even gap compared to last lap. Gap that time by was only shortened by 10/1000ths of a second, so Matthew Weeks not making anything up crazy right now. However, he's going to take it high, sail up to that top side, and try to get the run once again. And now we begin to wonder, is desperation setting in with 12 laps to go? He's made it so far. He's right now on the back bumper of your leader. But the question is if he's got anything left here, because there's no lap machines around, and there's nobody to distract the driver up ahead. Unless this battle that we're watching right now on your screen comes into play. 1, 2, 3 lap machines if they're all caught up to, and Luke Peters is getting closer, and so is Matthew Weeks. Your top two drivers are now getting inch by inch back up to a lap pack, and while they're far enough away, maybe not to be a threat for now, if they were to slow down and maybe make a bit more contact, there is a chance we see the lappers play into this event. 11 laps to go this time by. We are 90 laps into what's been a one caution race so far, and despite the early kerfuffle, we have been clean ever since. So far, it looks like it's been all Luke Peters this race, but it looks like there's a chance Weeks is going to drive up high once again, and he looked to be slowly but surely fading back. That time by, the gap is once again 217,000ths of a second, the same gap it was at the end of lap 88. So it's been a relative constant as opposed to dropping back more for Matthew Weeks. At the same time, though, that's more to the benefit of Luke Peters. He doesn't want to see that gap shrink anymore. He wants it to stay constant, but that time by at the line, only dropped by 2/1000. So Weeks has to look somewhere, and he's going to look deep into corner number 1. Take a look at how much time he makes it right back up. They're now separated by less than a car length. It's going to be Weeks, the closest he's been all race long, diving so deep into turn 1. Now he's got to find that momentum into 3 and 4 that will carry him through once again. Inch by inch, Matthew Weeks is making up that time, and you can see there, wiggles up the track, tries to put the power down once again, but I think that was the pitfall of his lap because he loses 0.06 of a second overall. So he tries something there, he isn't really able to get anything out of it, so he'll look up high. Now taking it up to top and ripping the seam. He looks to be slower to start, but he's got a huge run of momentum, and it should be enough to balance out the effect of going up top. And it looks like it just barely will be. But Luke Peters is staying calm here. And that's all he can do. Lap in, lap out, waiting for the time to pass. 8 laps to go this time by. Gonna drop down to 7. It's gonna be Luke Peters still leading, and that time by, Weeks actually dropped back a substantial amount, nearly a full 1/10 of a second, and that might be the biggest loss he's had all in this stint. And it's coming apart now, unraveling big. He's now down a 1/2 a second behind, and all of a sudden, indeed, it looks like Luke Peters is once again pulling away. Peters pulling his own weight as it stands, getting closer and closer again. At this point, it's going to be Peters trying to keep himself alive with the age on his tire. 41 laps on this stint, nearly half and half when it comes to the way he played the strategy. As most others did, it's a 1 pit stop day, but he chose instead to go in a bit earlier than the drivers he's competing against for the win. And even though it was a risk, and you saw how big Matthew Weeks gained, right now he's falling back once more, and Luke Peters puts himself in a perfect position to go for it with 5 laps to go. He'll be coming to lap number 96 with the race lead. And he's got it yet again. 5 laps remaining. Alec Daffin now looking to get up to Jordan Kuntz, and that time by, he gained about 0.2 of a second. And with just enough time on the clock to make it at that pace, we might see a battle for third develop here as Alec Daffin continues to make time. Now Daffin, he's still 0.6 of a second back. He's got to keep on going with the speed he had prior if he wants to make that spot up. It looks like he's much better through the corners, especially through 3 and 4, gaining nearly a full 1/10 and a half as he comes around yet again. Now going to be 4 laps to go for the entirety of this field. Daffin, he's getting closer and closer, less than half a second here, but I'm sure Jordan Kuntz does not want to give this podium up, knowing how much he needs to stay up there with Matthew Weeks gaining more in the point standings. Of course, it would be horrible to give it away, but it's going to be a hard-fought battle. The way Alec Daffin's looking, he might be going for his 2nd consecutive 3rd place finish. As one driver's in the wall, that's Marshall Harris. He's going to bang right off of it and get going once again. 3 laps to go this time by. Daffin now within 0.3 of a second, whereas Luke Peters runs on his own down the back straightaway. Now coming through, 98 laps in, breaking away from the field and breaking away once again from Matthew Weeks. Number 20 machine of Luke Peters finds himself right where he needs to be and now has 3 miles to go to seal the deal here in Homestead. White flag will wave next time by, and the race will be official. A 1 caution event that went nearly flag to flag in terms of strategy here. Daffin is going to be now a 1/4 of a second away, but he's got to dive in deep if there's any opportunity. Marshall Harris going to get caught in the wall. That's going to slow down Jordan Kuntz big time here. He can't do anything to avoid Harris, and it looks like Marshall stays right up top. Alec Daffin going to get closer once again, and coming through turns 3 and 4 one more time. White flag will wave for Luke Peters as he takes himself through to the final lap of this race. Daffin now looking closer than ever as you're going to see them come barreling in neck and neck down the start-finish line into turn 1. Daffin will dive deep, and the battle for third rages on with Kuntz right up top. He'll scuff the wall just a bit. Daffin trying to go clear, and that he does. It's now going to be all about the final half lap as Luke Peters, in his first race since 2022, comes back, dominates, and will win the Homestead 150. Checkered flag flies for Luke Peters as at the line, Jordan Kuntz barely holds on for 3rd. And a very close call for Daffin, but just not enough to make it back in the podium. And it's going to be Marshall Harris who slides up immediately thereafter. Luke Peters wins in Miami. checkered flag is out for Luke Peters and the number 20 team get it done. Looking to burn down the house and celebrate this one, Luke Peters comes right in the frame. Peters briefly celebrates, burning it down on track, and just like that, a fantastic night of racing comes to a close. Checkered flag will fall in Miami, and let's take a look at your race results to wrap up tonight's event. Luke Peters will win by 1 second over Matthew Weeks, and then from there, it's going to be Jordan Kuntz, who holds his own for third, barely getting at the line, over Alec Daffin, position number 4. Then from there, you're going to see Vinny Tigner, who's going to be in 5th. James Bowden is going to come through for 6th, and it'll be 7th spot held then by Henry Kaloff. It's going to be Kenneth Gorell 8th, Marshall Harris 9th, and Shane Wielden, who rounds out the top 10. 11th is going to be Kyle Jackson with Michael Deitch in 12th, as it's Dylan Wheeler 13th, then Chris Tripp 14th, Tyler Seabear then in 15th, and Jacob Kaplan 16th spot. It'll be Jackson Van Pelt 17th, Carter Casey 18th, and Tyrone Yoh 19th, and last to finish off tonight's event here in Miami. James Bowden, we mentioned, finished 6th, but at the end of the day, it's all Luke Peters getting it done and collecting the checkered flag in a return race to remember. Let's get a word from Peters, your race winner. And first off, figure out if he's available for comments. Try to get a word from your race winner, Luke Peters, the number 20 machine, who collects the checkered flag. First race in this league since 2022, and what a way to come back in style, collecting the victory, leading the most laps, and grabbing the pole position. Just about exactly what a driver would want, and tonight, it all comes together in Miami. Luke Peters, you come back and collect the checkered flag in Homestead, dominant from start to finish, and the strategy worked out just right. Right, how's it like winning your first race in your first appearance this season?
Yeah, it's great. That was a really great first race for me. I feel like I drove a perfect race, played the strategy right, was good on pit road.
And everything you needed out of this race, you mentioned it. You got it done. From the start, getting the pole by just a few thousandths. The big thing for you is, of course, how good you were with the tires. Saving it up on the first stint and getting away. And that final stint, it looked a bit antsy, but you held on. What was it like managing the tires throughout the entire green flag run?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely difficult, having to save tires without going too slow, so as you don't lose so much time. Especially in that last run, I thought Matthew was going to be able to catch me and pass me with how quickly he was gaining, but I think he burned up his tires too much trying to catch me, and I was able to hold him off for a little bit there at the end, and then he started falling back.
And that defense was all you needed to pull it together and get there till the end. We saw how much control you had as well tonight when it came to the speed overall. Multiple lanes were always applicable here at Homestead. You think there's anything like the top side or the bottom that really carried you through?
I think just being able to run the bottom so well is what helped me. I was just able to really carry a lot of speed through there and save enough tires. On the top side, at the end of the first run, I think I ran that too much and burned my right front off and hit the wall a couple times. I lost a lot of time doing that. So during the second run, I just stayed on the bottom the whole time, and it worked out good.
And it looks like everything holds up very well tonight as you return to competition. This time, of course, the Grand National Series, much different than before. And, of course, up next on the schedule, we got a lot of excitement. And we got next up, though, 5 flags. We're going to be heading to Pensacola up next, so it's going to be a much different style of racing. I think there's a chance to maybe return to the track and perhaps go over a second victory.
Yeah, I don't know. I've not driven 5 flags very much, but we'll see. We'll see how I do. Hopefully, I can win again.
Hoping to win again, Luke Peters, you collect the checkered flag here in Homestead. Anything else or anyone else you'd like to thank?
Thanks for putting on the broadcast. All the admins for putting on this race, and everyone else for making it a great race.
There we have it. Luke Peters pulls through and dominates in Homestead-Miami, collecting the victory. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Luke Peters on the move, your second place finish. You're just a second away from victory, getting even closer week after week here. Matthew Weeks, another podium, this time a second place finish in Miami. How's it feeling after a hard-fought, nearly all-green race?
It was pretty good. I think I only got one lap in practice because I was eating dinner. So to finish like that and have a really good long run car, it was good. I needed a strong run. I know I've been close a couple of times, but a P2 is almost there. So just one spot away. We're going to get it. We're getting closer.
Absolutely getting closer, and tonight the big thing about your race, that second stint, you really came alive there within a tenth of a second of grabbing the lead, and you gave Luke Peters, that's for sure, a big show at the very end. Unfortunately, it was just all about trying to maintain that. You still finished up with second, so what was it like on that claw back to make it up to your leader?
It was cool. I think I was over driving a little bit too much, like halfway through that second stint. I told myself, I was like, yeah, I'm driving too hard. I was just wanting to get up there as fast as I could, but once I got to him, I started really struggling with rear grip, and so I just tried to just back it down and try to finish P2 and not wreck the car.
I'm not wrecking it, you did, keeping it up there with a podium finish, and once again, a very solid run, a bit to slightly gain in the championship battle. Now, with that being said, it's a completely different style of racing, going to the short tracks up next with 5 flags, and a lot of question marks. And one for you is, can you keep the podiums up?
Probably not there. My hopes are we're probably going to get crashed, because every other league I've raced there's done exactly that. It's just crashed all night long, so hopefully we have a good run, but I'm not that great at short tracks, so we're just going to wing it, man. So hopefully we survive and come away with some points.
Hoping to keep up the survival. Tonight, another great performance. Matthew Weeks, you finished second. Is there anyone else you'd like to thank?
Thank the guys that run the league, man. I enjoy the switch to Xfinity car. I've had fun so far this season. Shout out to you doing the broadcast. I know you do it all by yourself, and you do a hell of a job doing it. JV Designs on the schemes, 213 Simware, all my Pro Edge guys that run different series. They don't race here, but shout out to those guys and everyone that watched the race. Hope it was a good one. I tried as hard as I could.
And putting up a great show till the end, Matthew Weeks, the checkered flag, so close and still fighting with another podium. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, man. You have a good one.
Matthew Weeks on the move, only one more driver to speak to who pulled through for the podium. Only 95 thousandths of a second the difference at the end. Jordan Kuntz, you return to the podium once more, keeping that top 3 streak up, and tonight just looks like there wasn't enough in that second stint to keep you going. How was it like out here in Miami?
It wasn't a good night for me. I absolutely dislike this track and every feature about it. Did the best with what I could. Always have not been great here with tire saving, and that was the downfall of my race tonight with just the tires. I could easily be quicker than them with the first 20, 30 laps, and then after that I would just fall away. Never really could get a long run speed. Even though I had better tires wear than a few people out there, I was still struggling at the end with just lap time, and could never get the lap time out of the tires at the end of a stint.
You saw how important that late race pace was, of course, for every driver here. So a bit of a struggle to keep up with the leaders at the end. But we saw the defense with Alec Daffin fighting to keep up with the podium, and you barely came through at least securing that top 3. How was it trying to defend? Because you said the tires were a bit of trouble, but it was still just enough to hold on for third.
Defending wasn't as hard as with more even tires, with even tire wear and even lap times at the end. You just made sure you have the outside, pin them down, and don't let them get the ground on you and slide job it and make you check up for them. I really wasn't good anywhere tonight. It was just a bad race for me, and But next week is a track that will be a lot better at Five Flags, new track, so it's going to be interesting to see how everyone else races, and hopefully it'll be a long, clean race.
And you mentioned looking forward to what's next, and we've seen, of course, quite a lot of clean races already this season, but next week, completely different track in itself, and I think there's a chance to maybe pull it together and maybe not worry as much about the tires and still go for a good performance.
Yeah, the tires still will matter. I just never been good at tire saving at this specific track. Five Flags going to be a lot of a track position race. Qualifying is going to matter a lot. Basically a single groove track, and of course it's a short track, so hard to pass. Probably maybe see a bump and run for a win or something, but going to be entertaining.
We're, of course, excited to see the entertainment from Five Flags. Tonight, Jordan Kuntz, you pulled through third in Miami. Anyone else you'd like to shout out?
I would like to shout out everyone who watched this race, and you for broadcasting and being able to, for all the people who are watching to be able to watch it. And yeah, it's been nice to actually have clean races as of recently, so thanks to all the admin teams, Vinny and Carter. Done great with the league, and excited for the next few weeks.
We can't wait to get back to the action next Saturday. Jordan Kuntz, you pulled through again with the podium, finishing third here in Homestead. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And with Jordan Kuntz on the move, that wraps up our podium ceremony for tonight's event, with Jordan Kuntz finishing third, Matthew Weeks finishing in second, and on top tonight, Luke Peters, your race winner. Talk about dominance on the return, and we're hoping to see, of course, a lot more excitement come next week. Keep your eyes peeled for our next event. It's going to be the virtual Five Flags Speedway live on FTN next Saturday, and we'd love to have you there once more. As always, you've been watching our coverage of the Saturday Night Thunder Grand National Series. I've been your host, David Kreutz, commentating and producing through all of tonight's racing. Tonight's track, of course, the virtual Homestead-Miami Speedway here on iRacing, the world's leading online racing simulator. Check them out at iRacing.com for more information. We'd love to have you join the track as well and join the best of the business here in the Saturday Night Thunder Grand National Series. We hope to see you whenever we're live again on FTN, and if you enjoyed tonight's broadcast, be sure to leave a like on the stream and subscribe to the channel. Your support is always greatly appreciated. Thank you for watching tonight's coverage of the Homestead 150, and we will see you Monday night with the Integrity Ignite series as they head to Fontana. Thank you once more for your immense support, and we are set to return to FTN all throughout 2024. A lot of racing coming up, and it'll be great to have you once again back on the channel.